Hi, 6th grade math students. This is Mrs. Jones. Again, we are continuing our work with equivalent expressions this week, and we will be discussing the distributive property. So we are first going to start with this big question. How can the distributive property be used to find the product of large numbers? Remember that product means the answer to a multiplication problem. So we are basically asking, how could we use the distributive property to multiply larger numbers? And the reason we're starting here is I want you guys to see that this is a property that you have likely already been using in some capacity. And we are going to start with just whole numbers and use it with that, and then we are going to move into the algebra part of the distributive property. So on this next slide, I want you to try to do some of this math just mentally, just in your head, so no calculator, no pencil. So I am going to put up 3 multiplication problems, and I want you to pause the video and think of how you could get the answer to these multiplication problems in your head using any strategy that you can think of. And then once you have your best attempts at them, go ahead and unpause it, and I will share what I did. Okay, so here are your 3 problems. Remember, this sign means multiply, so this is 86 times 7, 4 times 39, and 6 times 253. Try to come up with those answers mentally. Go ahead and pause so you can work. All right, this is my strategy and kind of how I use the distributive property to help me multiply large numbers. So I break down the larger number, so in this first one, 86, I break it down into its place value and think of 86 like 80 plus 6. And then I multiply each of those parts by the 7. So in this case, I would do 80 times 7, which is 560, and then 6 times 7, which is 42. And then I add those together, and that's how I know that 86 times 7 is 602. On the second one, 4 times 39, we can do it the same way and break this up into 30 for the tens and 9 for the ones, and do 4 times 30 is 120, and then 4 times 9 is 36, and then add those together to get 156. Or what I actually do for this one is, because 39 is really close to 40, it's only 1 away, I think of this like 40 minus 1. So then 4 times 40 is 160, and then 4 times 1 is 4, so 160 minus 4 gets me 156, just in a different way. And we can keep going with even larger numbers like 253. We break this down into its hundreds, tens, and ones, and do 6 times 200, which is 1,200, 6 times 50, which is 300, and 6 times 3, which is 18. So then 1,200 plus 300 is 1,500, plus 18 is 1,518. So if you were thinking of a strategy similar to what I just shared, then that means that you are using a variation of the distributive property to multiply large numbers. Okay, so to show you a few more examples, when we have something written like this, this means 4 times the quantity 60 plus 3, and we know 60 plus 3 is 63. So this is like a way to do 4 times 63. One way that we can think about it is that this is 4 different groups of 60 plus 3. If we add up all of the 60s, we get 240, and when we add up all of the 12s, we get 12, and that gets us 252. Okay, so 4 times 63 is 252. Or we can think about it using the distributive property. So distributive property, the word distributive is like the word distribute. Distribute means to give out. Okay, one example that I think of about distributing is the people that distribute candy on Halloween, or the people that are at their doors that give out candy to your groups. Okay, when we are distributing, it's really important that we multiply the number that's on the outside of the parentheses, so the 4 in this problem, by everything inside the group of parentheses. Okay, this is a group, and if we think about that Halloween analogy, think about if you went trick-or-treating with a group of kids, but only the first kid in line got candy, the rest of you didn't. That wouldn't be fair. You would be upset about that because you're all part of one group. So when we're doing the distributive property, we have to make sure that we distribute the number on the outside to every number on the inside. That's why you see these two arrows up here. So this time we're going to do 4 times 60, which is 240, and then 4 times 3, which is 12, and add those together to get 252. So different ways that you can think about using the distributive property to multiply large numbers. Okay, let's try a few more. So we have 5 times the quantity 12 plus 4. Right, so I could write out that 12 plus 4 5 times and add those groups, but I really like that shortcut that the distributive property gets us. So I'm going to try using that. So I'm going to take the number on the outside and multiply it by the first number on the inside. 5 times 12 is 60. And then I'm going to take that number on the outside. Don't forget the number at the end. 5 times 4 is 20. And we are adding, which we know from here, so 60 plus 20 is 80. Okay, for this next one, we have just the number on the outside of the parentheses is just written at the back of the parentheses. It doesn't mean anything different. We can write numbers this way or write problems this way. It's just not as common, but it really works the same way. We take the number on the outside of the parentheses and we multiply it by the first number in the parentheses. So 6 times 20 is 120. And then we take the number on the outside of the parentheses and multiply it by the second number in the parentheses. So 6 times 3 is 18. And then this time we are subtracting. And 120 minus 18 is 102. So the quantity 20 minus 3 times 6 is 102. All right, now we are going to try it with some algebra involved. So I'm going to clear my screen and go to our next slide. All right, this time we have 2 times the quantity x plus 4. And I want to show you a couple different ways that you can think about this. One, we can think of it as 2 different groups of x plus 4, which would look like this. Now, for those of us that are still kind of getting used to the variables and the constants, we can still use a picture to help ourselves with these problems. And how I would do that is for x plus 4, I have an x, and I have 4 positives. And then over here, again, I have an x, and I have another 4 positives. And now, just like last week, I want to combine my like terms. So the first thing that I'm going to pick is my variable. So I have 1x, 2 x's, so 2x, and then I have 4 positives, and another 4, so that makes 8, and they're all positive, so I'm going to write that as plus 8. So 2 times the quantity x plus 4 is the same thing as 2x plus 8. Remember, these are not like terms, and x is not the same thing as a positive. This term has a variable, this is a constant, so we cannot add these together. 2x plus 8 is our final answer. Now we can also use that shortcut of the distributive property to do this problem in a slightly different way. Okay, so we are going to look at the same problem, but this time again we're going to distribute. So we take that number on the outside of the parentheses, in this case it's the 2, and we multiply it by everything inside the parentheses. So follow these arrows. 2 times x is 2x, 2 times 4 is 8, and we're adding, so it's 2x plus 8. So the distributive property kind of gives us a shortcut if we are ready to move away from the pictures. Okay, let's look at another one. This one is the quantity c minus 5 times 3. So again, we can think of this one like we are splitting this up to 3 groups of c minus 5, which would look like this. And if it helps you to think about it in the terms of a picture, please feel free to do so. Okay, for this one, I have a c, and then I have 5 negatives. That minus sign tells us that they're negative. So I have 5 negatives, and then here I have another c, and another 5 negatives, and here I have another c, and another 5 negatives. Then when I want to combine my like terms, I have 1, 2, 3 C's. So I'm going to write that as 3C. And I have 5, 10, 15 negatives. So I'm going to write that as minus 15. So the quantity C minus 5 times 3 is the same thing as 3C minus 15. All right? Or again, we can use that shortcut of the distributive property. So to look at that one again, to distribute, we take the number that's on the outside of the parentheses and multiply it by everything inside the parentheses. Follow the arrows. So 3 times C is 3C, and 3 times negative 5 is negative 15, or you can just think of it as 3 times 5 is 15, and we are subtracting, so it's minus 15. Okay, pay really close attention to the sign that's in the middle of the two terms, because that's going to be important in your answer. Let's try a few more practice problems together. Okay, we have 4 times the quantity x plus 5. Okay, I'm going to skip the drawing it out, but if that helps you, feel free. But I just want to focus a little bit more on that shortcut of using the distributive property. Now, it still does help me, and I've been doing this for a long time, but it still does help me to draw these arrows in. So we're going to take the number on the outside, 4, and multiply it by the first part of the group. 4 times x is 4x. And then we're going to take the number outside and multiply it by the rest of the group. 4 times 5 is 20. And we're adding, so this is going to be 4x plus 20. Remember, we cannot add these. This has a variable, this is a constant, so 4x plus 20 is our final answer. This next one is the quantity y plus 1 times 6. So again, it doesn't mean anything different if the number on the outside is at the back, it's just kind of written backwards. But we do the same thing, the number on the outside times the first part of the parentheses, so 6 times y is 6y. And the number on the outside times the second part of the parentheses, 6 times 1 is 6. And we're adding, so it's going to be 6y plus 6 for our final answer. Okay. This next one looks just a tiny bit different. There's one more number than we've seen before because the a has a coefficient of 3. So this is 2 times the quantity 3a plus 2. So on this one, we still just take the number on the outside, the 2, and multiply it by the first term. This time we do 2 times 3a, so 2 times 3 is 6, with the a, 6a. Number on the outside times the second term, 2 times 2 is 4. We're adding, so this is going to be 6a plus 4. All right, we have 3 more. 9 times the quantity 2n minus 1. Okay, follow the same process. 9 times 2n is 18n. 9 times 1 is 9. We are subtracting, so this is going to be 18n minus 9. Okay, pay close attention to that sign. Next one is 4 times the quantity 2d minus 3. Take your number on the outside, multiply it by your first term. 4 times 2 is 8d. 4 times our second term, so 4 times 3 is 12. We're subtracting, so 8d minus 12. And our last one is 3 times the quantity c minus 4. 3 times c is 3c. 3 times 4 is 12. And we are subtracting, so 3c minus 12. Okay, it still really helps me, guys, to draw in these arrows, so I encourage you to do that. And just real quickly, what to do next for you, rewatch this video as much as you need to. Complete the independent practice, check it with the answer key, and then do that check-in last. Have a great day!